that anyway, so.
Right.
All right, only us. Okay, so I will call this meeting to order. So welcome to the January 2021 meeting of the City of Reading's Historical Architectural Review Board. During the COVID-19 emergency declaration, the Historical Architectural Review Board will hold its meetings using a virtual meeting platform since the public is still prohibited from attending the regular HARB meetings in person. Public comment for the HARB meeting was made available through email directed to Amy Johnson up to 5 p.m. today, January 19th. Comments received will be read into the record at this meeting. Ms. Johnson, were any public comments submitted? And if so, would you read them into the inclusion in the record?
No public comment was submitted.
Okay, thank you. A full recording of tonight's meeting will be placed on the city's website after adjournment of the meeting. So thank you for your attendance this evening. Chapter 295 of the City of Reading's Codified Ordinances requires that the HARB be guided by the United States Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation and Guidelines for Rehabilitating Historic Buildings, Chapter 180, Construction Codes, and by any policies, excuse me, and or guidelines hereafter adopted by the Board or the City of Reading. While meetings of the HARB are generally informal, Robert's Rules of Order are used to structure the proceedings and maintain decorum. All attendees are asked to mute their microphone if they are not participating, actively participating in the meeting, and an audio portion of these proceedings will be recorded for record-keeping purposes. When an applicant hears the name of his or her property called by the chair, they should identify themselves and wait for the preservation officer to present the summary of the application proposal. The chair will then recognize the applicant when the time is appropriate for him or her to present any supporting information to the board, and applicants are asked to limit their presentation to 3 minutes. So minutes were submitted for February and September 2020, and has the board had the opportunity to review the minutes from both months?
No, just the earlier. You said February?
Aaron, I'm
I'm sorry, did you say something, Nigel? Can anybody hear? Can you still hear me?
Maybe we lost. I can still hear you. Maybe we lost her for a second.
I can hear everybody.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can, okay.
I apologize.
No problem. Did you have a question, Nigel?
Not at all. I just wanted to make
Oh,
sure
okay.
that everybody could hear.
Okay, yep, all right. All right, so Mr. Booth had stated that he only had the opportunity to review the February 20 meeting minutes. And so because of that, I'll ask for a motion to postpone the approval of the September meeting minutes. If we could just do that first. Is there a motion to postpone that till the next month?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
I,
and opposed? Okay, all right. So, all right, so for the February 20 minutes, are there any corrections to the minutes that anybody has? No, okay. So is there a motion to approve the February 2020 meeting minutes?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor, approving?
Aye.
Okay, and those opposed? Okay, all right. So Ms. Johnson, the February 20 minutes are approved, and then we will review and vote on the September 20 minutes, excuse me, the February 20 minutes are approved, and we will review the September 20 minutes at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. All right, thank you. Are there any conflicts of interest for tonight's agenda? No, okay, all right. So we will begin with our first and only application for tonight's meeting, and that is for 459 Douglas Street. So Ms. Johnson, if you want to read that property summary, this is coming back as a different application from the one that we reviewed a couple of months ago. So go ahead and read that, and the applicant can go ahead and make some comment afterward.
Sure. Built in the Queen Anne style, this 3-story row home features a coarse brownstone facade, the original scallop slate shingled mansard roof and wood bracketed cornice, original archwood windows at the first and second floor, a curved bay window at the second floor front facade, and the original half glass and wood paneled front entrance door. The historical integrity has been compromised with the replacement of the original columns and railing with wrought iron columns and a wrought iron railing at the first floor front porch. The structure received a site quality rating of 78 in the 1979 Historic Site Survey and is a significant contributing site in the Center Park Historic District. And tonight we are reviewing the proposal for the installation of a stair lift at the front entrance steps. And the Secretary of the Interior standards that apply to this project are number 2, the historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration of features and spaces that characterize a property shall be avoided. Number 5, distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize a historic property shall be preserved. And number 9, new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features, protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. And this was reviewed at the November meeting and the November 2020 meeting, at which time the board had approved the installation of a vertical stair lift, but since that time, the contractor who is present this evening has been working with the property owner to revise that project.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm.
So the applicant is welcome to present some comments or summary if you'd like.
Sure. So the vertical platform lift project that we reviewed in November, the family, the homeowner, was not willing to return the property to its previous state should they move or they pass away. So we decided to try a outdoor stair lift. That way it would not require any modifications to the property. The stair lift would be fastened directly to the stairs, no modification to railings, porch, nothing at all. And then with the step into the home, just a removable threshold ramp.
Okay, very good. I'm just going to scroll through the application so that the board, although I'm sure you probably reviewed this, but just go slowly through this and then we can see what stair lift, what chair lift, excuse me, there that the application is proposing.
I also wanted to state that the zoning administrator provided comment that this will require a zoning permit and approval by the Public Works Director. But once a zoning permit application is submitted, the zoning office will provide that information to the Public Works Director. That's not the responsibility of the contractor.
Okay, thank you. All right. You can see that. Okay, so does the board have any questions about the new application and the product that is being proposed and how and where it's being attached, including the threshold ramp? And if there aren't any questions, are there any exceptions or objections to the application?
I have a question. This is Aaron. The concrete panel in front of the steps, can the applicant identify the width of that panel from the leading edge of the lowest tread to the edge of the concrete panel adjacent to the tree trunk? So that would be the first control joint.
You're looking from the distance from the first tread to that tree?
Yes.
I don't have that drawing in front of me. Had that on the drawings for the VPL. See if I can pull them up. One moment.
From the photo, it appears to be, approximately between 4 and 5 feet in width if you're walking parallel with the sidewalk. And I guess where
The
this
drawing that
question-
I have, I show that from the porch to the tree is 11 foot 2 inches, and the porch to the curb is 13.4. And I believe the stairs were 5 feet from the porch, so you would have 6 feet to the tree, if I'm doing my math correctly. Or no, 5 feet and change.
So if it's about 5 feet from the leading edge of the lowest tread to the joint adjacent to the tree, it looks like, based on the shop drawing that's submitted, the chair, when it's in the lowest position, would encroach upon that dimension by approximately 29.5 inches. Is that correct?
So the lowest part of the arm, we scroll down. It depends on the angle. Those rough dimensions are off 45 degrees, but the arm would stick out the furthest at 26 inches.
Okay, so the option in the preceding page is not being installed in that case?
No, I have. I show 26 inches off the first tread. I'm not
Okay.
sure where you're getting 29.
The canopy option?
We're not doing the canopy. I'm not
okay.
doing the canopy option.
Okay, so 26 1/8 would be the total encroachment on approximately 5 feet, which you're left with, maybe a little more than 34 inches of sidewalk. I guess 2 comments with regard to that. I think the first thing would be to check with the zoning administrator and verify that amount of encroachment is acceptable. But then from a functional perspective, it's fairly narrow particularly for 2 people to pass each other at that location. It wouldn't be possible.
Okay.
Okay. Is there, all right, were there any other comments about that? And that is an important thing. I suppose we could, if the board is so inclined, approve this, but clearly, the zoning administrator needs to specify whether or not that is allowed. Could we do that, Amy? We could approve this, but it's obviously contingent on ensuring that there's enough egress, okay, and I don't know if that's for 1 person or 2 people to be able to pass. It is, obviously, it leaves a much narrow passage area for pedestrians to walk through there, especially if someone is trying to get into the chairlift as well.
Right, right. No, the board could approve it and just state in the resolution that it's contingent upon approval by the zoning administrator and the public works director.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, one question I would have is when it's not being used, is it always going to have to be stored in the bottom position? Could it be stored at the top position of the steps?
I strongly recommend, especially for people who have these in town, whether it's Reading, Philadelphia, that they park it at the top, just so nobody passing by wants to play with it. It's like people can't resist touching it when they walk by. So I always advise them to send it back up to the top. Even if they go down, send it back to the top with one of the remotes and keep it at the top all the time.
Okay.
Another consideration when the chair is not in the lowest position is that the rail extends approximately 16 inches from the leading edge of the tread, or at least from the riser in that drawing, which could present a tripping hazard along the sidewalk edge. These chairs are available with turned rail configurations. That might be one thing to consider to avoid an encroachment if that provides a more functional solution.
Right. I mean, they do make curve rail stair lifts. It's a completely different application and it costs about 3 times as much. So it's possible, and this is being paid for by a grant. So that's why we went initially with the straight. If we have to go back to a curved rail, that's a whole nother, but it's certainly possible. And that way the rail can bend, and it can, I would probably either a 90 or 180 degree park at the bottom to keep it tucked away. I mean, but either way, you will still have a rail stick out past that first step unless we remove the railing and have it turn and wrap around coming off the side of the first step. But I would have to remove the railing at that point.
Right.
Or modify it.
Mr. Booth, would that system still just require drilling into, I mean, in terms of like any material that it has to be attached to? There's no more like impact on the property than this in terms of how it's fastened and where it's fastened?
Well, the impact would be removal of the existing wrought iron railing on one side, which
right.
Can certainly be reinstalled after the removal of the chairlift. It's not a particularly complex configuration, so I don't anticipate that they would require more for the rail attachment than simply a bottom bracket, and then the bracket that comes off of probably the second tread.
Now, the applicant or the representative for the applicant, you had mentioned that the homeowners were not willing to restore the property, at least on the first application, which obviously required a great deal more than, let's say, reinstalling a railing.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they were not willing to restore the property to the prior to the VPL
Original.
being installed. Yep.
Yeah.
They didn't want to be responsible for that.
Okay. So, Mr. Booth, if I could ask, so the application as it's being presented, do you believe that is it workable, or do you think there are just too many obstacles to make it, like in terms of space for folks to get past, and then the other concern that you had, is this like a too great of a like obstacle to overcome, where we should consider the other alternative that you're suggesting?
I don't know. I'm not sure of the zoning requirement. I think that would have to be investigated. I know there is a restriction on encroachment, but I don't know exactly what that is or what the parameters are. And I think it depends also on which side of the stair it's installed on. I think if it's installed on the uphill side, it's less of a pinch point for the sidewalk, which helps. You still have the tripping hazard of the projecting bottom portion of the guide rail. So I'm not sure how that part would be overcome other than a turning curved guide rail. And, you know, the board could certainly approve both under, you know, certain conditions.
Right. That's kind of what I'm thinking. If in fact the application as it is not, you know, zoning will not approve it, I would, if we could offer an option to the applicant in the motion that would allow a second type of installation, then the applicant wouldn't have to come back again to the board to present that. So I believe that's something the board should consider in light of the uncertainty of if this is really feasible. This is when we could use Dave Harris on the call.
Mr. Van Horn, could the stair lift be installed on the left-hand side or on the uphill side if necessary?
We were just trying to keep it on the right-hand side because that's the closest to the existing electrical outlet without having to do any additional electrical work. But I suppose you could put it on the other side, left-hand side.
Okay, so I think these are perhaps conditions that should be included in a motion. So are there other points for discussion or questions? Either about what's being proposed or an alternative that Mr. Goose had stated? Okay. Okay, so if there isn't anything, are we at a point where someone would make a motion and I would ask you to consider what I stated before to present an alternative if the application as proposed would not be approved by zoning or public works, and just for the sake of the applicant being able to get this installed, and I'm sure they're anxious to get this installed on their property. So it would be advisable if there could be a second option on the motion.
So I think based on what we've talked about so far that a motion would include two options essentially. The first option being a straight guide rail as proposed under the condition that the installation is approved by the zoning administrator and that the chairlift would be installed on the uphill side, which would be the west side of that stair. And then the second option would be, if those two conditions can't be met, to utilize a curved guide rail that does not encroach beyond the leading edge of the bottom tread. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think that sounds right. Would you want to include some language about the removal of the handrail? Is that the one where the?
So
okay.
in the first option, the existing wrought iron rail would remain in place, and in the second option, the existing wrought iron rail would be removed, but retained temporarily and reinstalled upon removal of the chairlift.
Okay, thank you.
We just modify the existing railing so that it maybe stops on the second step so that it can make the bend and come off the first riser. Or do you have to have the existing railing in the same exact condition?
If it's modified and the chairlift goes away, the railing will no longer be code compliant as a handrail. Now, I don't, you're required to have a rail on
Both sides?
Possible to eliminate.
it in its entirety by code. The only other consideration would be whether or not the board feels that that is or deems that to be a historically significant feature.
Mr. Booth, I think you had cut out there. I think you were talking about handrails on both sides, and then we lost you there for just about 3 seconds. Do you mind just going
sorry
back
about
to that? That's okay.
So if the chairlift is removed and the railing has been modified, it would no longer be code compliant. It has to terminate above the lowest tread by code. However, I don't believe that 2 handrails are required by code, in which case it could be eliminated in its entirety so long as the board doesn't deem that railing to be historically significant to the property.
Okay, that's a great question for the board.
I would say that it is not, the railing is not historically significant to the property. That has definitely been replaced somewhere along the line from when this building was built. So I think the building, if I'm not mistaken, might have been built somewhere between 1900 and 1910.
Okay, in which case, removal of handrail on one side would not have a negative impact to the historical value or character of the building? I would have to agree that it's likely not an original handrail.
Oh,
Okay.
I can verify that's not original, yes.
Okay, all right. So, Mr. Booth, are you willing to modify your motion to include that language?
Sure, that would be for the second option.
Right.
Removal of the railing in its entirety with no requirement for reinstallation.
Okay.
And that would be
All right,
on the
thank you.
uphill side of the existing stair.
Right. Yep. The west side. Yep. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll
I'll
second that
second
motion.
that.
Go ahead, you got it. Go ahead.
It's a-
All or nothing. All right. Ms. Walker, I'll give it to you since Rick graciously granted you that.
Thanks. Thanks, Greg.
Not a problem.
You couldn't have. Thank you. Okay. All right. So, all right, I'm going to call for the vote. Mr. Booth.
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Politica.
Yes.
Okay. And Ms. Walker.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. So the motion passes, and I know this has to go through zoning and for public works. So I suppose there'll be some additional information. Our motion was contingent on approval. So if there are some additional changes, I'm sure Ms. Walker or Ms. Johnson can walk you through that.
Yes, and the zoning administrator said to, or recommended applying for the zoning permit as quickly as possible because they do have a 30 to 60 day review period now because they're just backed up.
Mm.
Okay. And just to be clear,
Okay.
that either option 1 or option 2, whether it's straight rail or a curved rail, would be on the uphill side, correct? The left-hand side.
No, not necessarily. Now that you say that, if it's curved and it's not encroaching, I could see it happening still on the downhill side, if there's no encroachment.
Okay. I think it would, if the curve rail would most likely have to go on the uphill side because that concrete is in such poor condition on the right-hand side that it would almost have to be re-poured before we could anchor into it because the curve rail will then be on that part and it's no good. The uphill side, I believe the concrete was still intact.
Right. The nice part about the uphill side is that the guide rail is shorter.
Yes.
I bet. Okay. Do you have any further questions, Mr. Van Horn?
That's it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Nice evening.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me close that. I'm going to go into. Okay. We'll keep working with our agenda here. Okay. Staff applications. Let's see here. We've got a couple there. Was there anything to mention there, Amy?
No, nope, not that I have.
Okay. Right. Okay. Is there a motion to approve staff applications?
I'll make a motion.
I'm taking it this time, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I'm giving this one to Rick. But is there, and Nigel, would you like to second that?
No.
I'm taking that as a yes. Okay. All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right. So those staff applications are approved. Okay. So Ms. Johnson, you're welcome to present anything new on Preservation Officer's report on action items.
I just wanted to report on the appeal hearing that was held last Tuesday with City Council. City Council heard the appeal of 525 Penn Street for the retention of, for the approval of an internally illuminated channel lettered sign that the board had denied. Just only due to the size of all of the signage put together was more than what is allowed for the building. And with the recommendation that external illumination be approved, or be considered. But the City Council won't make their decision until Monday, the 25th, January 25th. And I don't have any inclination right now of which way the decision is going, but one of the arguments of the applicant about the external lighting was he said that there would not be enough room for like installing the external lighting on the front facade because of the bay window that protrudes from the front. That's immediately above the storefront. So that took place last Tuesday, and then I have on the agenda to give you the the August 2020 resolutions, but I did go through them, and there are a couple to review, and instead of putting that on you, I'll do it myself because I have to go out later in the week anyway to make a couple site visits. But just to run through them quickly, because maybe I don't know if Nigel and her travels has seen anything, but 826 North 4th Street was the installation of a wood picket fence, and I'm not sure if that was completely installed yet. And then
what was the address? 846.
826 North 4th Street on the west side.
No,
And you-
but I did see, do you remember the lady that came in front of us about the fence in between? It was this long drawn out thing, and then the gate with
Yes.
the dog ears. Like, she really changed that. I've noticed it twice now. She did change everything that she said she was going to.
Okay. That's what this
Or
that's what this property is. I
Oh,
think. The one that had installed the gate that was kind of that wasn't appropriate.
yeah.
Yes, that's what
And
this property is.
Okay. Well, they did put the dog ear gate up as
Okay.
far as I could see, and they put the dog ear fence up,
Oh, okay.
far as I could say.
Okay, then she did it. I know she applied for her zoning permit and everything. She was going through all the proper procedures. So, okay, then we can say that one was done.
Yeah, let me
Okay.
double check. Since I have the dog now, I walk around a lot more in the neighborhood. So let me double check that tomorrow because I'm off. But I'm like 99.9% sure. Yeah, because I
Okay.
know. Yeah, I remember that property. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
The next one was 420 Douglas Street, and I did see that myself, that was installed as the board had approved. That was the concrete steps. They had, I believe, wooden steps, and they were approved to install concrete. The next one is 734 Madison, and this one I have to check because it was the approval of a Bilco basement door at the first floor rear facade. So I just have to go down the alley and check that. And then the next one was tabled. It was 210 North Fifth Street, which is Abilities in Motion. And last week, the representative from Abilities in Motion contacted me and said she has been working on our revisions to their sign proposal, and she's going to send me something this week just to kind of get a preliminary review to see what I thought and to see if it better matched or better met the requirements of the sign policy. So that is being worked on. And then the rest of the resolutions were all of the art installations, the vinyl cling art installations in the downtown. And I believe I've seen every single one of them has been installed as the board had approved.
Oh, excellent.
And
Okay.
that was it. So
Okay.
you're all off the hook for the August resolutions.
Thank you. Although I think we still are, like, if you're, it's still good to kind of get out, Amy. So, when you're ready to peel those back off, by all means.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, for those that are comfortable, going out.
Yeah. And if Nigel can just check on that one, it's really only the one that I have to check on. So that's
Yep.
why I thought I could just do it.
Yep, I'll do it tomorrow.
Thanks, Nigel.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Was there anything else then, Amy?
Nope, that's all I have.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Ms. Weller, I apologize. I have to go back to item 2 and rescind my vote. I didn't realize I do have a conflict of interest for item 2B.
Oh, that one you do. Okay. All right. All right. So we will. Okay. We'll just note
All right.
that.
Sorry about that.
Yep. No problem. No problem at all. Okay. And you did not. Yep. And you did not make any of the motion or second. So okay. All right. Okay. All right. Let's see. I think I do not have anything. I think Ms. Johnson. Let's go ahead and do. Let's do board nominations next month.
Okay.
And for anybody, again, that's interested, we would never want an opportunity to pass by if you want to serve on any of the positions. So make sure you make that known to anybody to ensure that that you get properly nominated. Yeah, let's put that on to next month's agenda. Education Outreach Committee report, I do not have anything at this time. And is there anything Policy Committee report?
Nothing
Anything
to
new to
report.
Okay.
No.
Okay, thank you. And then, Ms. Johnson, just as we have for the last at least 6 months, I think you're still accepting preservation combinations. Any
Yes.
idea when there's a deadline on that?
No, I mean, now May is National Preservation Month, so we're heading towards that.
Right. Okay. We just
so-
talked about book last year. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll
I
look back.
suppose then,
Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
I
No,
say
no, go
I'll
ahead.
look back through my notes and make another list of what's been, there's only been 2 or 3 that's been submitted so far, but I'll make a list
Okay.
for you all.
Okay. And then we should set a deadline then this year, whether it's, the April meeting or the March meeting or something.
Yes. Yes,
Hopefully,
Yeah.
we'll have them this year. Yeah.
yes, hopefully.
Okay. All right. All right. Very good. Okay. All right. And is there anything else on the board? If not, I will call for a motion to adjourn. This is the easy one. Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you, Nigel. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Okay. And opposed? Okay. Very good. Well, I, for one, and I'm sure there's more, appreciate a short meeting and hope that everybody has a really great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
You
you.
as well.
Night. Yep.
Good
And a good
night.
start to 2021. Thanks, everybody.
Yes,
you all.
thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.